riffs are too repetitive, the lyrics make no sense. All the songs are B-sides and the cover art's a mess. There's so much here to tear apart. Listen to it for a week, now that week has passed. It's Why I Hate This Album podcast with Tim and Garrett.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Why I Hate This Album. I am one of your hosts, Garrett Harvey. With me as always, co-host extraordinaire, Zach Brannigan, to my kiff, Timothy Richardson. Tim, how you doing?
Pretty angry this week, to be honest.
Why don't you tell the folks at home what's got you all twisted up inside?
I'm angry at our new friends, possible new enemies at Texas Podcast Massacre for suggesting we do this terrible album.
That's right. This is a special double episode podcast crossover Halloween special.
This episode was suggested to us by Mitch from Texas Podcast Massacre. Podcast I enjoy. They do different horror movies every week, some good, some bad, and then they discuss it with somebody that's not a fan of horror movies in general. This week, they're going to be talking about the 2002 movie Queen of the Damned, and so we are doing the god-awful soundtrack to what is a genuinely amazing movie.
We'll get into that.
I'm a little jealous that they get to discuss the movie instead of the music, because I did watch the movie. It's very fun. I enjoyed every bit of it.
I, of course, on the other side of the room, since we do share a rather small living quarters, did not bother to turn my head and watch the film. I rather just read about it on Wikipedia, and we will get the opportunity to talk about it in at least the abstract, because for people to understand some of these songs, you've got to have a good understanding of what generally is happening in that movie.
This episode will be coming out October 9th. Obviously, because of recording schedules, we haven't heard their episode, but it will be coming out Monday, October 8th, and I have to assume that they will bring up the music as well, because it is an integral part of that movie.
Yeah, these two couldn't be more inextricably linked.
Well, Garrett, did you hate this album?
I have a really hard time answering that question this week. Did I enjoy this music? No, I hate it. I hate the songs on this album. I did not watch the movie this week. I tried watching it around the time it came out. Even at the young, tender age in 2001 that I was, whatever
37.
Right, 37, 19. I still couldn't finish it.
Well, I watched it last night, and it is a terrible movie. It is absolute garbage from start to finish. And maybe it was because of how much I hated this album. It was sort of an enjoyable garbage to see a movie fail on every account just so thoroughly.
So let me back up, because I think you've now set the table. So to answer your question, Tim, based on what you just said, you have, in a record amount of time, gotten me there right here live on the show.
Excellent.
In the first 5 minutes.
I work fast. I know what I'm after, and I know how to get there.
You know what I like? There's not a lot of preamble. You just go after it, and you stay after it. It's your tenacity and your focus, I think, is what brings the speed. I don't know. We'll see. I was on the fence, reasonably certain, and we'll see. Maybe it'll go the other way. Maybe I will be ungotten. But for now, I have already been gotten there, and I hate this album. You're right. A lot of these songs were new for the album, but a lot of the songs are not. So yes, I hate it. But what about you, sir? I think I already know the answer, but do you hate this album?
Yes. No qualification necessary. Yes.
All right. Let me ask you this, Tim, because it is somewhat of a greatest hits of terrible new metal. Had you ever heard either this soundtrack or some of the songs contained within?
At least 2 songs. I'd heard the Disturbed song and the Papa Roach song. Those both sounded familiar just from high school radio. Obviously, I'd never heard this soundtrack.
So you had almost no exposure to this album, with the exception of 2 songs, and didn't really know anything about the movie either, I presume.
Nothing.
For me, I had not heard any of this stuff other than The Sickness in 2002, because I was in my freshman year of college. I had just been asked to no longer live in my current residence due to a series of misunderstandings.
Involving hammers.
One of which involved a hammer and a dryer, maybe multiple hammers and multiple dryers. You are not supposed to dry your hammers in a dryer, it turns out. Anyway, I had just moved into a new dormitory and did not know any of the music that was, I guess, popular at the time, if that's what this is a reflection of.
I think so, yeah.
My new roommate listened to the Moulin Rouge soundtrack on a never-ending loop and sang along to it.
Is the Moulin Rouge soundtrack good?
It is not.
Is it better than this?
Maybe. It's got Ewan McGregor.
Oh, definitely.
Okay. That's what I was like in 2002, not listening to this, making a big life change due to, like I said, a few misunderstandings regarding my current living arrangement. What about you, Tim? You're a couple of years younger. What were you doing in 2002 while this was being unleashed on the world?
So I was in high school. I think my junior year. I would have probably just begun driving. I was probably listening mostly to, like, I don't know, Bad Religion, probably.
Weird. What are you driving?
2000 Silver Mustang, the Stang.
And when would you and the Stang part ways?
We parted ways after I broke my ankle and could no longer fit my swollen, gigantic cast foot into the car.
What year was that?
2010.
10-year-old Silver Mustang for an adult grown man.
I was quite the fun boy.
You were quite the fun boy. Now, you could say, had you not broken that ankle, you may never had gotten a big boy car.
Oh, I would 100% be driving that car. It's actually with one of my nephews currently, and I look forward to the day that it comes back to me because you and I have a little date with that car.
Yeah, we had a lot of special memories in it, and we need to see it off as only you and I can by having a very questionably authentic Viking funeral with that car.
God, I look forward to that day.
So that's what you and I were up to. You were a very weird person. Before we dig into this album, let's talk a little bit about how it came to be, how this movie came to be, what little history is known behind the Queen of the Damned soundtrack.
This is the soundtrack to a critically panned, Anne Rice authored, Anne Rice hated 2002 flop, Queen of the Damned. It's notable mostly because the female lead, Aaliyah, died in a plane crash 6 months prior to the film's release. And quick Snapple brand super awesome fun fact that is legally distinct from Snapple's real facts, Aaliyah was the person R. Kelly was married to whenever she was 14 or 15, and he was 27. See her song and album Age Ain't Nothing But a Number, written and produced by R. Kelly.
Once again, R. Kelly, not a great guy.
Without going into too much detail about the actual film itself, again, there's an episode of Texas Podcast Massacre airing allegedly yesterday. The movie is about a vampire named Lestat.
Previously played by Mr. Thomas Cruise.
Yes.
On Interview with a Vampire opposite Brad Pitt, with a very tiny Kirsten Dunst and possibly a Benicio del Toro.
Now it's played by Stuart Townsend, because whenever they asked Tom Cruise if he would like to be in this god-awful movie, he told them to go fuck themselves.
And folks at home, you may know Stuart Townsend from absolutely nothing. Or unless you're one of the 18 people that saw League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, he was Dorian Gray.
Okay.
Exactly. So no one.
Yes.
Oh, not Benicio del Toro. Zorro.
Antonio Banderas.
There it is.
Yeah, I know my Banderases.
What?
I know my Banderases.
You know all the various Banderases?
Yes.
Name one other one.
Bob.
Okay, that sounds made up.
I mean, I guess technically it's Roberto, but I call him Bob because we're on pretty good terms. Anyway, the point is, the vampire Lestat wakes up in maybe the late 90s, early 2000s. He wakes up due to the sheer raw power of a new musical form that was just hitting the streets at that time, nu metal. Nu metal wakes him up. I could understand if the movie was about a vampire that had been sleeping for centuries and heard nu metal and decided, nope, I'm going to wipe out humanity. You got a good movie. I'll watch that. That seems reasonable. Yep. But that's not what happens. He goes on to become essentially the king of nuisance metal. He's this sort of Jim Morrison, Marilyn Manson mix of a character, and voiced in the many, many songs he performs over the course of this movie by friend of the show, Jonathan the J-Devil Davis of Korn.
Yeah, he plays the lead singer of this nu metal group that's woken him up with their raw power.
Right. Through his music, his nu metaling, he wakes up other millennia-old vampires just by the sheer power of his rocking, or something. It's gloriously stupid. It's so goddamn bad and also so much more fun than this album. I mean, this movie has concert scenes that also double as climactic fights to the death. The whole movie is on par quality-wise with a bottom-tier episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
That sounds right.
Seriously, all of this happens. This is a movie about a vampire changing the world with nu metal, and he's voiced by J-Devil. Listen to the podcast about the movie. I really wish that was our show this week.
There's a lot to address there, and some of it has oozed its way into the album, so we'll definitely get there. But let's talk a little bit about the music itself. So, Tim, I heard you say Jonathan J. Devil Davis performs as Lestat in the 5 different concert scenes that exist in that movie. Does that mean I'm going to hear Jonathan Davis on 5 songs on this soundtrack?
Interesting that you would ask that. Of course that's how this would work, right?
I would imagine he wrote and performed the songs in the movie, and this is the soundtrack to the film, so yes.
Strangely, there was a contract dispute between Sony and Warner Brothers, so J-Devil was able to perform the vocals in the movie, which Stuart Townsend then lip-synced to, but not on the released soundtrack. What should happen there is no soundtrack album. Contract negotiations didn't work out.
Get somebody else.
Instead, they kept all of the J-Devil performances in the movie and kept all the music from the movie. Then they replaced J-Devil on the soundtrack album with Wayne Static of Static X, Dave Draymond of Disturbed, Chester Bennington, Linkin Park, Jay Gordon of Orgy, and Marilyn Manson. They sang all of his vocals. They're all doing their best J-Devil impression.
I think some more than others, or I guess some might be more successful than others, and we'll get into that more.
The rest of it is filled out with some random songs that's just a who's who of terrible nuisance metal, Papa Roach, Disturbed, Deftones, etc. I mean, it's just a huge pile of fucking awful, and it's a pretty nice preview for future episodes of this very show.
Yeah, we added a lot of new bands to the list. Granted, we're going to have to space them out. We got on a bit of a nu metal jag. Been a while since we've done anything country.
Well, Garrett, I've got some bad news for you. We are in the month of October, the month of Halloween, the month, as you like to say, of the devil. We're probably going to get some more nuisance metal before this month is out.
Okay, we'll get into it off mics, but god damn it.
All nuisance metal is attempting to be Halloween music.
A lot of it does seem to walk the line on the spooky side of things. What's interesting is that he hands it off to these 5 guys, but he still produces the album with this other dude, Richard Gibbs. So he has direct input with each one of these artists that are replacing him. It's not like they did it after the fact and he wasn't involved.
The whole thing also seems ridiculous because everyone involved should have just been like, you know what? This is a blessing in disguise. Let's not do this fucking album.
Yeah, now we don't have to pay him a bunch of money. We're going to get 9 songs that already existed. Why don't we just get 14 songs that already exist? Or even better, let's just stick with 9. We'll play a couple of them twice. Gives a shit. It's Queen of the Damned. No one's going to see this. But instead, they stick with him, and he and this other guy, Richard Ribs Gibbs, produced the album. Gibbs is a composer and movie producer with credits that include Dr. Dolittle, Big Mama's House, Battlestar Galactica, and season 1 of The Simpsons.
You're forgetting also Dirty Work, one of your guilty pleasures, Barbershop 2, Back in Business. It's quite the resume he's built for himself.
Before we move into general thoughts, Tim, you and I, we're struggling to get by week to week without our lead researcher, Brad. Now, as we mentioned, Brad has gone off to college, so you and I have been left holding the bag once more. He's off studying to be a marine biologist while we pick up the slack and continue to build out the Why I Hate This Album world headquarters. We don't want to look outside the organization. We want to focus on promoting people from within. But that lead researcher role is very, very demanding. And we've had a number of people sadly quit in the last couple of weeks as we've tried to find a replacement. Of course, we are still looking outside now. So again, if you're serious, no sycophants, no weirdos. No, we like weirdos, no creeps. We'd like a resume. Anyway, in his stead, because he can no longer contribute to the show, I thought this would be a nice time. I didn't tell you, and we have a letter from Brad from college. I have not read it yet, so forgive me, because this could be anything, literally. Honestly, Tim, I didn't think he could read or write.
Yeah.
I had one of the transcriptionists down in the transcription pool. He dictated his entry letters for college applications, and she typed them. So we received this week, and I have to say I'm not surprised. There appears to be something all over it. I can't blame the postal service. This definitely was pre-stained.
Well, he's a college man, you know.
That's true. It's fishier than I would have expected. So here we go. It reads, Dear Mr. Harvey Garrett and Mr. Big Brother Tim, right off the bat. The reason for the Mr. Harvey Garrett, he would call me Mr. Harvey, I would say Garrett, and then he thought I was telling him to call me Mr. Harvey Garrett. And then the Mr. Big Brother Tim, you did enroll in the Big Brother program with Bradley in an effort to help him prior to the college idea, so I guess you are now forever called Mr. Big Brother Tim. Does that sound about right?
I just wanted to help him in some way. Jesus Christ, he was getting caned more and more frequently.
Some of those nights where you and I would stay up and have just a couple slices of cantaloupe and talk it out, like, you were really torn up about it. I mean, yeah, sure, you'd see him come hobbling in the next day and make the exact same mistakes. Kudos to you for not letting him off the hook, not letting yourself off the hook. Every swing of that cane hurt you more than him.
That can't possibly be the case.
Oh, not physically, no.
Yeah,
no.
yeah.
Physically, you had us put in the pillory, the stocks, I guess, and I thought, we'll never need that. People will just stand there for their caning. They'll have deserved it and they'll understand why, but I never even considered the idea that they physically wouldn't be able to stand under their own strength. Boy, howdy, they came in handy.
I am nothing if not a student of human physiology and a problem solver.
So, dear Mr. Harvey Garrett and Mr. Big Brother Tim, I am at college. Remember that? Okay.
What a beautiful idiot.
You helped me to go because I was so bad at making your show for the radio or whatever.
He understands podcasts approximately as well as my mother did, and he did research for 35 episodes, something
He's
like
one
that.
of our oldest employees.
Yeah.
He's been here since day one. I don't know how he got anything done. Continues. Anyway, you were right. College is harder when you don't do it through the mail. This is how he got the job. He has a PhD. What we did not realize is that he attended a correspondence college that may or may not have been not a college.
I think it's pretty obvious that it wasn't.
At first, my teachers yelled at me a lot, and I don't always understand why they're so angry. Professor Na Lam Pong can be very violent in his teachings, but he is much weaker with the cane than Mr. Big Brother Tim. Is that a joke? I don't remember getting caned in college. I think he's joking. So I pretend to cry so he doesn't feel bad. Well, that's
It might not be a joke.
He's got to be kidding. What they say about college dorms is true. The rooms are tiny and the food stinks. Literally. I mean, how many days in a row can you serve fish paste and rice? Probably not that bad. Maybe 1 or 2 days a week. At least I'm finally doing what I love. Marine biology. Ever since I heard about it last year, I knew it was my calling. Classes are tough. Our last field expedition was 14 days, and after only 2 days, I'm writing this back on the boat for another field study. Wow, that is aggressive. Good to hear he's getting out there and actually getting hands-on experience. Speaking of, it's time to bring in the nets. Don't miss me too hard. Remember to feed my mouse. Uh-oh.
We'll get him
Let's
another
get him
mouse.
another one. Yeah. Love, Brad. P.S. Tell Kevin to stop crying and sending me letters. The guys keep laughing at me, and tell him not to sleep in my closet. Oh, well, I've been letting him sleep in there since the day he left.
We'll get him another closet if he ever comes back.
Well, yeah, I guess he's not going to work here anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, if he wants to, stay for Christmas and Thanksgiving, he can have his closet back.
Good to hear that he's doing well, at least. He seems to be enjoying college. He seems to be getting a lot of fresh air, which I don't remember at all in college. There's a lot of, lab time. There's a lot of, neurobiology and organic chemistry. Very little of that happened outdoors. Good for him.
You weren't studying to be a marine biologist, Tim.
I was.
Okay, we know how the album came to be. We know how the movie came to be, sort of, and we have the general idea of what it's about. What do you think of this album in its totality, Tim? Does it service the film?
If you buy into the premise that this is a vampire singing nu metal songs about being a vampire, I guess it's not that far off the mark. However, this entire album is embarrassing. It's
very of the time.
As an album viewed in isolation, would this be better in your mind if it was less vampire related or more? Because there are some references. Okay.
Well, there's more than some. That's one of my overarching questions for this entire album. How are there so many songs that were seemingly about vampires already written before the movie? You made a movie about vampires. You decided that you wanted to make it about the lead singer of a band who was internationally famous and could challenge America with his popularity by becoming an interloper in a field in which he has no business in, only to bring down the entire system from within. Oh my God. Is there a chance that our current president is a vampire?
No, Garrett. From what I've seen on movies, television, what I've heard in these songs, vampires are decidedly sexy. And our president, well, he could be one of those 6,000-year-old vampires that's just sort of rotting from the inside out.
Yeah, maybe he's got all those people around he can't feed, so he's getting aged up.
I could see Stephen Miller being some sort of familiar.
He looks like Nosferatu with male pattern baldness.
No, I don't think he's a vampire. I think that Trump is feeding on him, if Trump were to be a vampire.
He has the look of a vampire, but the self-esteem of a familiar.
Right, so I think that it helps him to operate in both worlds. He's comfortable in the vampire world more so than you or I would be, because he already sort of looks like the living dead.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And kind of like Miller. Someone drew a face on a toe.
Yeah, even more so than you. He at least has I guess he shaves his head now. I was going to say, he has the distinction of having darker hair, so you can at least tell where the face stops and the top of the head begins. You, unfortunately, seem to be one same color entirely.
I am not.
Your hair is flesh-colored.
It is not. The color of my hair... The color of my hair is not at all the same color as my skin.
What color's your hair?
Brown.
No.
Yes.
Is it?
Yeah, what do you mean? You're sitting right across from me. Look at my face, Garrett. Garrett, look at my face. All right? Now a little higher to my hair. Back down to my face. Hair again. Face twice. Different color.
Here's the problem. You keep your hair very short. And it's... Fine is the fine gives the impression that you have thinning hair, which is not the case. The light kind of shines through it a little bit, and so I get a little of the background through there, and so it's just very difficult.
This is not a flattering description of me, you fuck.
I'm trying to be very clear. You have no way losing your hair. If anything, it's going the wrong way. Your hairline is exactly the same as it was when I met you.
Untrue. It is marching toward my eyebrows on a daily basis.
What I'm saying is that your skin and hair is the same color.
It is not. I don't know why we're talking about my skin and hair. Steve Miller may or may not be living halfway between the living and dead. What's amazing to me is that this is a mix of songs, some of which were originally written for the movie, with lyrics about the movie written by J Devil, performed by quite a few musicians, and then songs that were just already out there without any thought to this movie at all. For the most part, all these songs sound identical despite the people making them being somewhat varied, at least.
Generally, these songs are almost entirely nu metal. Half of them are a bad impression of Korn, which makes a bad song worse and slightly better sometimes. And I never, ever want to hear any of these songs again.
I completely agree. We'll hear a lot of the bands again, though. We're getting close to the song by song. Before we go into that, let me read the official Amazon product description. Keep this in your mind as we talk about these songs. Today's darkest, edgiest rockers take solo turns singing brand new songs by Korn's Jonathan Davis and Richard Gibbs for the soundtrack album to the vampire flick Queen of the Damned. In the film, the rock band led by the vampire Lestat is called Satan's Night Out. Queen of the Damned is so heavy, it's freaking scary.
Track number 1, Not Meant for Me by Jonathan Davis, performed by Wayne Static of Static X.
I have to give Wayne X a bit of a compliment here. He does a pretty goddamn good J Devil impression.
It's a little more cartoony than he probably would like it to be. It almost sounds like somebody talking through a burp.
I kind of know what you're saying, like it almost approaches a parody, because he even does he sings Me as May, which anyone that's listened to either the Limp Bizkit or the Korn episode knows I fucking hate.
Had you ever heard anything by Static X?
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, same here. pretty new to Static X. I'm sort of curious how much he sounds like this when he's not trying to do a J-Devil impression. I hate that we call him that now.
No, you don't.
Here's an embarrassing admission. When this song began, I don't know why, for some reason, I was like, oh, it's new metal. What was I expecting?
I don't know.
I knew that some, if not all of it, had been written by lead singer Jonathan Davis of Korn, and was still like, oh man.
You thought maybe he had like a Joni Mitchell Blue period in 2002?
You can only hope. Written by Jonathan Davis, it is almost unequivocally accurate to say that this is about a vampire.
Yes, but about a sad, sad boy vampire.
I was going to say, but this vampire is so sad and lonely. He sings, I'm trapped in this world, lonely and fading, heartbroken waiting for you to come home.
I actually wrote down, demand Garrett do another poem here, and then I literally, you can see it, I have it scratched out right in front of me, and it says, doesn't live up to Garrett. It's not good enough.
Well, Tim, I have a very special surprise for you.
Oh, God damn it.
I love surprising you. So not only do I have this book of poetry here, what is also in here, aside from a number of sketches, which at some point I will be putting on our social media, there are also little snippets, little seeds of poems that never got their due. But they're still here. They still have small illustrations around them. The one that I thought kind of matched this verse that I just read, and I'll read it again, is right here. So the verse in the song that you said does not live up to my standard of high school poetry. For those of you who are new to the show, this is my book of 16-year-old sad boy high school poetry that I managed to recover, and oftentimes it does resemble songs, lyrics, thoughts, and emotions in the albums we do. The verse was, I'm trapped in this world, lonely and fading, heartbroken waiting for you to come home. The small mini poem, it's not a haiku, it's just the first verse of a poem that I have here is, a thought sits alone but not unknown, its thinker the father of creation.
Oh, you're terrible. You're so terrible, Garrett.
The difference being, 1, nobody paid me. 2, that was written when I was 16. And 3, it was several years before this album came out.
So you're saying you did not steal from this album? You're defending your intellectual property?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, plus the world had moved forward like 5 or 6 years by that point. We would move past that kind of poetry. You make fun of my high school poetry. Tim, perhaps you need to view it through the lens of 1999.
You're getting back to one of these, the world hadn't grown up yet, this was pre-9/11.
It's part of it, sure. That's not the only bit in the gumbo, but that's certainly a big ingredient. Perhaps if you sat down and watched The Matrix and then read this book of poetry, it might make a little more sense.
As you said, this is definitely about vampires. The main vampire, Tom Cruise character, sings this as sort of a challenge to some other vampires.
In the movie, I want to be real clear about this. On 5 different occasions, and we'll call them out, 5 different songs from this album, all 5 of the original Jonathan Davis tracks, are performed in the movie, in an 80-minute movie.
So some lyrics that go with that. The jury is coming to tear me apart. So the other vampires are going to come and they're going to fight.
Yes, because he's being very vocal about his vampirism.
There's also a Hulk scream about 3/4 of the way through this. And then there's a lot of bells in the background of this song.
There are a lot of bells in this song. There's another part where he says, so what you got? Which reminded me, for those of you who watch Rick and Morty, every time he'd say, so what you got? I would hear, show me what you got.
You expected some getting swifty to happen?
I was hoping. It would have been way better than what actually did take place.
Yeah. You're right. They're not doing exactly Jonathan Davis impressions. It is more of a parody. Maybe they just didn't really study the Korn too well.
He got the me's right.
And he's got the whisper singing, but those are the very superficial things. He just picked all of those things out and just really focuses on them.
Yeah, instead of whisper singing the horrible thing that happens in the Korn album, we get, come on, it's on, fucked me. I purposely didn't say what happened in the other album, but...
Oh, I'm aware.
I know you're aware, but for those who are listening that don't remember it or didn't hear it, which you should go back and listen to the older episodes, if anything, to appreciate how great the new ones are. But you didn't have to say it. We discussed that you weren't going to whisper fucked me anymore into the microphone.
We did discuss it, but I think we came down on very different sides of that argument.
You said you were going to at least try to do it less.
Yeah, less.
Once again, you have bested me with your words.
It's so sad for you. Track number 2, Forsaken, written by J-Devil and performed by David Draymond of Disturbed.
What is Disturbed's famous song? You know one?
I think the song that will be on here later.
Sickness?
They do what I can only describe as the worst cover I've ever heard.
That's not true.
What's the worst cover I've ever heard?
The worst cover you've ever heard is U2 covering Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah.
Yeah, we need to do a very special bonus episode on that one someday.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so top 5 worst covers ever. This guy with his stupid deep voice does this really orchestral cover of Simon and Garfunkel's Sound of Silence.
Oh, I heard this.
It's garbage.
Yeah. People went nuts for it.
It's got like 64 million views on YouTube. It's ridiculous. Jesus. We're not even close to 64 million.
No, we're off by at least a few million. I listened to that a few different times because people were going so crazy over it. I thought maybe I'm missing something. Once again, I have to say, nope, that's not good.
So I take it back. It does not have 64 million views. It has 435 million views.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Guys, we are several million off from that. Get those numbers up.
Turn on the YouTubes, go to bed, leave it on overnight. I'm sure that'll rack up a couple of views.
Make a playlist, put it on mute, just run them. Rent out a small office space in a strip mall, get a small team of undocumented workers to work for less than minimum wage, and just run them.
Hashtag just run them.
Yeah, we're not asking for anything big. If you happen to have a large open space where you can set up a series of terminals, and then you outfit that with several Scandinavian nationals that work night and day to do nothing but play our personal media in order to get our numbers up, great. But no more than that. Don't put yourself out.
The atmospheric noises and vaguely Middle Eastern strings that are on this opening of this song really do not match well.
No, not even sort of. I was curious what you thought of that.
Did not care for it.
I was trying to sympathize with the narrator in this song. Well, I should mention that this song is also performed in the film. You get the impression it's being sung by Lestat, who's tired of being an outsider, tired of being marginalized because he has to feast on the blood of others just to survive. He didn't ask for this. He was changed. He may have asked for it. I don't remember. The point is, there's the following lyrics where I was completely sympathizing with somebody who was tired of being cast aside by society, but then they completely lose me in the end. They sing, "You see, I cannot be forsaken because I'm not the only one. We walk amongst you, feeding, raping. We must hide from everyone." Tim, if you're looking to gain sympathy for your group or cause, you're not going to bend anyone's ear defending rape.
I don't think that's part of vampire lore.
No, I think that he's just saying we also rape.
There was no raping in the movie. There was tons of feeding, no raping that I could find. I think that's just a little J-Devil edition.
Did you notice the excessive breathing into the microphone on this song?
It's used as background music, and it gets progressively louder, and it can go fuck itself.
Yeah, it's gross. It's like listen to somebody eating a salad into a microphone.
I went back and forth. I think it's somebody's voice, but it's playing the 70s saxophone part at the end of this. It sounds like it's somebody's voice through some sort of modifier.
Oh, are you talking about the call to prayer at the end?
Yes!
So for some reason, at the very end of this, I think it's a person who does not know any languages in which a Middle Eastern call to prayer is sung, and so they're just kind of wailing.
Yes.
It's borderline really, really funny.
The lines, "I cannot be forsaken because I'm not the only one," don't make a lot of sense. I mean, I personally have forsaken many, many people. You can be forsaken with another. You, for example, have been forsook by me at least twice.
If you forsake me, does that therefore make me forsaken?
By me, sure. The point is I've abandoned you in Costa Rica.
Oh yeah, was that a forsakening?
Yes, at least that's how I was hoping you'd view it. Now I kind of think the whole thing was a waste.
I made a lot of friends that I still stay in contact with from that trip.
God damn it. It's really
Was
hoping.
I supposed to die in that jungle?
No, you were just supposed to be really fucking forsaken.
Well, okay, well now I really don't think that either you or I are using that word correctly.
I don't think he's using it correctly.
Well, that makes the most sense.
Track number 3, System, written by Jonathan Davis, featuring Chester Bennington of Linkin Park. Is there a robot mumbling at the beginning of this song?
Why, yes, there is.
Okay. If you're going to have a robot, at least have it speak clearly.
I don't know that he was speaking a language you and I could understand. He may have been speaking robot. third song performed in the movie.
I forgot how nice it was since our Linkin Park episode not to have Chester Bennington scream at me. There's also references to faces, which if you remember back to our Linkin Park episode, J Devil might have included just to get Chester to agree to sing on it. That guy loves singing about faces.
Well, he has a face inside of him, if I remember correctly. Although, didn't you claim to have a face inside you?
Well, I do, but his face is very close to the surface. It's like if you pull your shirt up, there's like a horrible face in your abdomen where flat skin should be. Screaming horribly.
It screams?
Yes. It's
the face is sentient.
Well, the face in this one is screaming.
Well, you're talking about a classic Quado situation.
Yes.
What is that, Total Recall?
The skin is stretched tight over the face that is inside of you.
Another example would be potentially Krang from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Absolutely not. That is a brain with a face on it in a robot's stomach. That is completely different, you stupid asshole.
Let me finish.
You know what? I don't understand why you think you should have any credibility about this.
Why would I not?
Last week, you exposed yourself as a shill for Big Shark.
What does that have? Okay, first of all, I'm not a shill for anyone. Sharks are real. We're not going to have this argument 2 weeks in a row. Tim doesn't think they are. Whatever. The point is, what does that have to do with having a face inside you?
I don't think that you should be the one that we should look to on
facts.
On facts specifically about things that are on television like sharks are. Your Krangs, your...
Okay. Wow. So I am not allowed to have any opinions about television because I expressed the opinion that sharks are real and sharks are also on TV.
Sharks are exclusively on TV.
No, sharks are real. People get bit by sharks every week.
People get bit by something. I think it's premature to say it's sharks.
What is it then?
I don't know, Garrett. It's a vast ocean out there, Garrett. It could be any number of things. I just know it's not sharks. Anyway, there's a robot mumbling. There's a lot of terrible J-Devilisms here. You've got your screaming face, feeling the sickness inside. It's sad boy poetry about vampires. And there's some kind of troubling lines that sort of make sense in the context of a vampire movie, but they have to know that it's going to be viewed outside of the context of a vampire movie.
Well, I don't think anybody's picking up the soundtrack to the movie without having seen the movie, except for me.
The lyrics are, "Why won't you die? Your blood is mine. We'll be fine. Then your body will be mine." In the bridge, "Why is everything so fucking hard for me? Keep me down to what you think I should be. Must you tempt me and provoke the ministry?" First of all, I don't know what the ministry has to do with anything. I don't really know what that means.
But there is an organ through most of the song, so maybe he's a priest? Well, that's a movie I might watch.
Vampire
Some
priest.
Sort of vampire priest. Oh, imagine he's dealing with crucifixes all day.
No, man, a vampire priest is brilliant because he can turn wine into blood.
Oh, yeah, transubstantiation.
Right. That would be...
So he's just blessing wine left and right, and he doesn't have to feed on anybody.
Right. That would be the best job for a vampire.
I mean, he's dealing with a lot of holy water and crucifixes.
That's true. Maybe he just stays in the priestly training until they teach him the secret of how to make the wine into human blood.
But literally, then he's always feeding on Jesus.
Well, there's an infinite supply, man. There would be a lot of crucifix and holy water time, but I think that if he could get the secrets of that wine to blood thing out of the deal and then abandon the rest of it, I think that's got to be worth it to a vampire.
Do vampires believe in Jesus?
Well, if they don't believe in Jesus, then why would a crucifix matter to them?
That's a good point.
Right? Unless it's every religion, maybe just no one's tried showing them a Buddha statue. That might affect them as well. I don't know.
Track number 4, Change in the House of Flies by the Deftones.
I watched you change.
This is the first non-original song sung by the Vampire Lestat,
a.k.a. Jonathan Davis.
Is this what all Deftones songs are like? I've heard quite a few Deftones albums. I don't know that I've ever sat down and tried to piece together what he was saying, though.
I don't think it was about collecting women and removing appendages.
Let me read to you what the lead singer says about this song. "It is a metaphorical song. You could take it in the literal sense of me watching somebody turn into a fly and taking them home with me and pulling their wings off and laughing. It spawns from me being a complete asshole and getting the complete repercussion for it by having my life taken away. So is it a metaphor? He says it's a metaphor, but then advises us all to pretend it's not.
And if it is a metaphor, what is it a metaphor for?
I have a genius annotation.
Well, that's not reliable.
No, but it is horrifying. I watched you change into a fly. The genius annotation for this. Here, there's a strong indication that he is perhaps watching a young girl change into adolescence. The most significant... Hold on. The most significant revelation is that his mentality is changing, yet he blames it on us, the audience. Watching a human being, a woman, change into a fly reveals that he views her as a creature. First of all, this person's an idiot. Second of all, is it a metaphor? We still haven't answered that question.
I don't know. That did not clear up anything. I don't think it's about somebody watching a young girl transform into adolescence, because maybe an adolescent girl transforming into womanhood.
Still no.
I mean like an 18-year-old becoming like a 22-year-old.
You specified those ages.
Yeah, well, I don't want anyone to think I'm a creep.
Garrett, this is episode 38 of this show. I think all of our listeners know that you are 100% not a creep. You're a good guy.
I am a good guy. Thank you for saying it.
Our show represents that.
I don't know if that's always accurate. I did begin this episode by describing an incident when I was a young man where I put several hammers inside of multiple dryers and then hit start.
You did this right in front of a security guard.
Yes, he was hiding in the night like Batman.
And why was he hiding in the night like Batman?
Potentially to catch a sinister villain who routinely put hammers in the dryer. Or enjoying a sandwich in the dark.
Could be both. I don't see why you can't multitask whenever you're on a stakeout.
I like to think he got lucky.
Yeah, who could ever unravel your sinister schemes?
I think my first mistake was not switching floors.
Not only is that a mistake because it makes it more likely you're going to get caught, you're just ruining your own dryer. You don't understand vandalism at all.
It doesn't come naturally to me, no.
I think this is a song about emotionally being a sociopath and an asshole and then just kind of gaslighting somebody about it. The lyrics here, I took you home, sat you on the glass, I pulled off your wings, then I laughed. And I watched a change in you, it's like you never had wings. It seems like at the end he's trying to convince the person or actual fly that he hadn't actually done anything.
To be perfectly honest, I was shocked to learn that this song wasn't about vampires.
We should give them credit here. They did not write this about or for a bad vampire movie. Like it or hate it, this is at least a real song.
But in 2002, a random nu metal song about transforming and giving in to your inner demons was fully acceptable.
That's true. Mainstream society said yes, please. Track number 5, Redeemer, written by J Devil and performed by Marilyn Manson.
The next track to be performed in the movie, and we can confidently say this is for sure the one Jonathan Davis song where the artist said, yeah, that's cool. I'm going to do it like I do it, okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I can't do anything else.
It starts off with more of your favorite Yoda singing. The hunger inside given to me makes me what I am. Always it is calling to me for the blood of man.
I'm glad you started with those lines, Tim. The songs that are overtly about vampires, listeners of the show, might be aware that from time to time I write elaborate musicals based on the albums that we listen to.
Oh, you've rewritten the movie Queen of the Damned to your own specifications, haven't you?
No.
Oh,
well,
good.
Yes, of course I did. We're not going to get into that, though. That's for me and maybe you and maybe Brett Ratner. What I'm talking about today is all the ones that are overtly about vampires. They feel like a middle school musical. The lyrics that you just read, the way Manson does it, it's like, the hunger inside given to me makes me feel alive. And they then put a bunch of effects over it and auto-tuning so that it sounds spooky. But all I could hear in my head is like, the hunger inside given to me makes me feel alive. I know that I shouldn't, I probably couldn't, I think I'll give it a try. It's just this musical about a reluctant vampire that's going to give in, and it doesn't stop. How many fucking songs can you write about somebody reluctantly giving in to the darkness inside?
At some point, you can't be a vampire virgin anymore, right?
Well, right. You'll die. Wait.
Every time can't be your first time.
Every time you what?
Eat a human? Drain a human of their blood? Vampire virgin.
I agree. Okay, you got to stop saying vampire virgin.
Blood virgin?
Oh my God, that's so much worse. Back to Vampire Virgin. No, of course not. If every time was your first time, you'd die because that meant you weren't eating. You have to eat people. Now, I guess you could eat animals, right? That's really never addressed.
Animals also have delicious blood. What if you got a priest as your familiar? So you never went to the seminary. Maybe you're hanging out at his apartment or something. You're like, hey, by the way, brought a case of wine. Can you do the thing? And then he does, and then you take it on your way. He is doing a service. He's not killing the vampire, but he's also preventing the vampire from hunting humans.
This is brilliant. A little vampire lore for those of you who might be saying familiar. What is that? I mean, our listeners are pretty sharp, so I doubt that's many. But a familiar is a servant to the vampire who does their bidding, ultimately in hopes of joining the clan of vampires. Now, do you know, Tim, is the familiar entranced?
I believe in some situations they are, but I think it can also just be a deal you work out with a guy.
Well, what does the guy get in the deal, though?
Not murdered sometimes. Maybe you've got like a bunch of really old stocks because you're super old.
The undead.
Yeah. Who knows how much Blimps Incorporated might have grown to at this point. I bought those stocks way back in 1912.
No, blimps are not where the money is, friend.
Well, okay, it's just an example.
It's a bad one.
There's also ocean liners. There's top hats. There's a lot of stuff you could invest in that over time will grow.
Maybe just like, like natural resources, like
right. I think
oil and minerals.
I think the common thing between your examples and my examples are they're both good examples.
Feeling, falling, hating, feel like I'm fading, hating life. What is this song other than a fun middle school musical about giving in to your vampire urges?
Yeah, you're right. They wrote a good song and then they fucking ruined it with production. I love this song you're singing. See, here's what you do. You combine this soundtrack with Hamilton and you do it like one of those Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter books. And then, what's his face? Lin-Manuel Miranda does all of his, magic.
Vampleton? It's got to be better than Hamilpire. Vampleton, you're like, oh, maybe it's a sequel, and then you get in there and realize that we just ruined Hamilton. But it opens kind of like a Bond song set in a spooky graveyard. Then you get some Manson-y drums. His singing is just god-awful, and it's just talking. It is 100% talk singing. It's got the line in it, and now you'll taste my pain. That is a line that you can put in a song, maybe even put in a movie. Say that in real life, and I think you're just going to confuse your victim. What does that mean? You've bottled your pain? I don't want to drink some weird combination of your sweat and blood. Those are the pain liquids, right?
As some of our listeners pointed out, J-Devil currently has a coffee company called Corn Coffee. Perhaps that is in lieu of making people taste his pain. He is providing us with corn coffee. Your name's Corn. Don't make corn coffee, just make corn.
Corn-branded corn, I'm going to be real honest, Tim. If there's a corn-branded corn, I'm buying it every time. Track number 6, Dead Cell, written and performed by Papa Roach.
This is a really weird outlier on this album.
I agree.
It kind of reminded me of Sum 41's Fat Lip. It's shitty pop punk and Beastie Boys inspired rap rock.
I cannot put the Beastie Boys anywhere near this.
Agreed. I'm not maligning the Beastie Boys. I just think that the specific staccato vocal delivery is reminiscent of the Beastie Boys.
Well, see, I don't. I think it is reminiscent of Limp Bizkit. These guys are white guys rapping over guitars.
What is Dead Cell?
I think it might be a play on words about a battery. Like a dead battery cell. The lyrics in the song, born with no soul, lack of control, cut from the mold of the antisocial. Plug them in and turn them on, process the data, make yourself the bomb. You know who I'm reminded of with these lyrics, Tim?
Who's that?
Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier. Is there a chance this song helped to encourage the writers Marcus and McFeely when they were authoring Captain America, Civil War, and or The Winter Soldier?
I don't think so.
He's born with no soul, lack of control, cut from the mold of the antisocial. Well, it doesn't get much more antisocial than Hydra, does it, Tim?
That's true.
Process the data, make yourself the bomb. He is the tool for assassination. Boy, it adds up. Do you have emotions? Is your heart freezing? They literally freeze him when they're done with him.
Okay.
This is basically the plot of Captain America Winter Soldier.
So I think the only reason this was picked for this movie was because it has the phrase livin' but dead kind of jammed in there. And I think that some producer was like, oh, this is about vampires. This is not. It's about the Winter Soldier.
It is about Steve Rogers and his good buddy, Bucky Barnes. This song helped me to understand the different branches of the nu metal tree. I think you have your Korns, right, which has a kind of a shouty metal, kind of comes from a place of metal, but then there's some rapping or phlegm-scatting. Then you've got your Papa Roach or even your Limp Bizkit, which is metal of various heaviness, but really it's just kind of white guys rapping over guitars. I think I prefer Korn.
Oh, God, I can't.
One's like heavy metal, but with rapping and shouting. The other is just like bland rapping over generic fart guitar. Would you rather listen to Papa Roach or Korn?
I think Korn, yeah.
I think I agree.
I don't know how representative this is of Papa Roach's material, but, I mean, we have a Papa Roach album coming in our future. Yeah, I know.
You know what? Let's reserve our answers then till we do the Papa Roach album.
Track number 7, Penetrate, written and performed by Godhead.
The song opens with "I've got nothing to penetrate" as the very first line. Now, I have to ask Tim, does he have nothing to be penetrated, or does he have nothing with which to penetrate?
Interesting. I never thought of that, but it isn't clear. You're right.
I speculated.
Okay.
I'm sure you've speculated about this song, right?
Yes, but not in this direction.
I think this song is about Godhead being unable to lose their virginity.
Because they have no lady or because they have no wiener?
I am going to assume lady, but we may very well be dealing with somebody that just doesn't have a dick. The lines are, "I've got nothing to penetrate. I can't seem to consecrate. I wouldn't know the solution." In parentheses, somebody whispers, "penetrate." "I practice my prostitution," interesting, "and spread the people's pollution." So it's clear this guy is shaking hands with the devil on a daily basis.
Yeah.
He is spreading his pollution, but he's not terribly sure that even if he had a lady, he'd know what to do with her.
It's a common fear. I thought this sounded...
not.
Hold on. At first I thought it was kind of a Dr. Seuss-y, albeit one that uses the word penetrate more than Dr. Seuss usually did. But what it actually reminds me of, do you remember in South Park there's an episode where they do this limerick? It's a man's obligation to stick his boneration in a woman's separation. This sort of penetration will increase the population of the younger generation. That's what he's doing.
Wow.
It's a shitty limerick.
It's kind of like, I am the very model of a modern major general.
Exactly.
But about penetration and consecration.
Or lack thereof.
Right.
Track number 8, Slept So Long, written by J Devil, performed by Jay Gordon of Orgy. This is the last of J Devil's originals on here. It's got so much more J Deviling on it. Do you think it's cool to walk right up and take my life and fuck it up? Well, did you?
It's a very melodramatic breakup.
And there's some troubling lyrics growled in a J Devil voice. Touching you makes me feel alive. Touching you makes me die inside.
I think I can explain this. Anyone who is familiar with the classic Thomas Harris film adaptation, Red Dragon, or the original version, Manhunter, and the main character of which, Mr. Francis Dollarhide, I think that we're dealing with a situation where the character in this song had been planning on Francis Dollarhiding a woman, that is to say, murdering her and removing her eyes and replacing them with shattered pieces of mirror. Of course, we're all familiar with this. I'm sure kids all the time are saying, "Oh man, almost got Dollarhided." That's pretty common, right?
Yes.
Playing games with this old heart. I've killed 1,000,000 pretty souls, but I couldn't kill you. Okay, so he definitely has taken many souls, and he had planned on murdering this woman, but somehow he has fallen in love. The lyrics say, "Taken in by surprise, touching you makes me feel alive. Touching you makes me die inside." He's feeling something he's never felt, but it's killing that inner murderer.
You said you were going to make this better?
Oh, did I?
Or just explain it?
Just explain it.
Okay.
I rarely make things better.
I mean, this is just bad.
It's just weird to have written an entire song about a serial killer.
No, it's not. There's the Sufjan Stevens song on Illinois. There's the song on Blind Melon Soup, Skinned. There's lots of
I guess
fun songs about serial killers. Track number 9, Down with the Sickness by Disturbed. You want to give it a try, or shall I?
Feel free.
Allegedly, the noise was inspired by a trip to the Chicago Zoo. So, is it a monkey noise?
All of our noises are monkey noises, Tim.
primate noises, but I take your point. This seems to be a theme song for a date rapist.
No, this is not about date rape.
What's it about?
First explain why you think it's about date rape, and then I'll explain why you need help.
I can see inside you the sickness is rising. Don't try to deny what you feel. Will you give in to me? It seems that all that was good has died and is decaying in me. Will you give in to me?
Okay, great evidence. You are making a very strong argument, and you get to the heart of my very first question in this song. From whose perspective is this song being sung? Now, you are supposing that it is from the male character's perspective to his date, letting her know that while he certainly is not like one of those vampire rapists you've heard about, he is going to put some undue pressure. Whereas I am thinking that it is from the perspective of the sickness.
What?
The song is being sung by the sickness. I can see inside you the sickness is rising. Don't try to deny how you feel. If it's sung from the perspective of the sickness, he can see that he is gathering strength inside this man. He does not want him to deny it any longer, but rather give in to the sickness.
So, okay, but I don't understand what you mean when you say it's sung from the perspective of the sickness. Are you saying that you believe that for example, a psychosis has its own personality, is its own entity that is possessing you?
In reality or in the song?
Either.
In the song, yes. In reality, no.
What I'm asking is, do you, Garrett Harvey, believe that mental illness is caused by demon possession?
Oh, okay. I'm glad you explicitly spelled it out. Yes. There is a not speech, not monologue, maybe soliloquy at the end of this song that is really upsetting. I copied just a bit of it. I think it explains what the song is about. I'm going to read just a bit of it. It goes on for quite some time and is very, very upsetting. No, mommy, don't do it again. Don't do it again. I'll be a good boy. I'll be a good boy. I promise. No, mommy, don't hit me. Why did you have to hit me like that, mommy? Don't do it. You're hurting me. Why did you have to be such a bitch? Why don't you? Why don't you just fuck off and die? I think the sickness is revenge against his mother.
Okay. Are you imagining some sort of an inside-out scenario where there are little emotion men running around in people's heads?
Exactly.
Okay. Okay, you know what? You bring Pixar into it, I'm on board.
I want to be clear, though. I don't actually think that. What I came to realize after this weird, gross play at the end of the song, it's from this guy's perspective, and he's trying to resist the urge to kill his abusive parent. Track number 10, Cold, by Tony Campos and performed by Static X.
As the name implies, this is a song about being cold. There's not much more to it.
I got some metrics here. There are, of course, still boys in the lab. And when I say boys, I, of course, mean a smattering of all genders. But
And not children.
Oh, right. Certainly. The fellas, the guys, the entire Why I Hate This Album scientific community. They crunched some numbers, and this is a 3-minute song with 29 words. 29 words! That aren't cold. We are so cold. This song reminded me of another song that 90% of people probably aren't going to understand this. And you might be in that group, Tim. That's fine. But the song opens with kind of 2-syllable singing. It starts with, we kiss, the stars, we writhe, we are. This is very similar to the French electronic-ish band Air and their song Biological. Their song opens with thousands of hairs, 2 eyes only. Couldn't get it out of my head. The whole time all I was hearing was Biological by Air, which couldn't sound less like Static X. Mostly I was pasting a different song over this song because, like I said, there's 29 words that aren't about being cold. Track number 11, Headstrong by Earshot.
There's something that drives me really fucking crazy in this song, and I'm actually not 100% sure if it's just a bad copy that I got.
It's not.
Okay.
It is an artistic choice.
Okay. The lyrics are, so let me be the one to say I've really had enough. But there's this weird 4-second pause after the word let. So let, it's
Do
silent.
it in real time, Tim. Let people realize just how long 4 seconds is.
Okay. So let. me be the one to say, I've really had enough. Every time they did that, I had to check my phone. They leave just enough space so you're just like, it can't be. There's no way that anyone would have done this.
Yeah, it drove me absolutely insane. I reacted the exact same way. This has the pleasure of being my least favorite song on the album.
That's totally fair.
I don't even understand what it's about. Do you know what it's about?
It's not about vampires as far as I can tell.
No. This is the one song they managed to find that in no way, shape, or form could I sort of tie back to vampires. And that's disappointing. If you've got a movie with a soundtrack about vampires, I expect some vampires in that song.
Track number 12, Body Crumbles by Dry Cell.
Not to be confused with Dead Cell, a previous song on this album, which I was very confused by.
I think they might have accidentally put a song about werewolves on this vampire movie soundtrack.
Really?
Yeah, the lyrics in here, finally recover when the moon is right, looking up into a neon sky, child in me takes over, guess it's been too long. Really sounds more werewolfy than vampire-y.
That does sound a little more werewolfy. Maybe they were testing the waters for a sequel.
No, I think there's like 17 Anne Rice books if they were going to have a sequel.
Well, she might not allow them to have the rights any longer.
Was Interview with a Vampire? I saw that movie on a plane sitting next to my mother, and I remember it was very awkward because there's a fair amount of nudity in that they did not cut from the plane.
Interesting.
And I was like 9. Was that a good movie? I don't remember.
I really liked it, although at the time I was a pretty big fan of Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt, and Christian Slater.
And nudity.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah. Still am.
And various Banderases.
Just the one, really.
You're forgetting about Roberto? Also
I
Carlos.
don't know him. Tim, you're confusing your life and mine again.
I do.
I don't know.
I apologize.
Our main character of the song is giving in to his inner whatever. Doesn't really matter. He's losing control.
This time to a werewolf, though.
Well, maybe. I think that it could be a number of things. Finally, I find when I lose control, inside my body crumbles. It's like therapy for my broken soul. This could just be dancing like nobody's watching in his kitchen. It could be having a good cry. You always say how much you feel your soul is healed after a good cry. Isn't that you?
It's so refreshing, Garrett. You really need to start weeping.
I wish I could. I sit down, I think of the saddest thing I can and jab myself in the eyes a bunch. Just nothing comes.
You shouldn't have to jab yourself in the eyes. Or even if you have to, you should not jab yourself in the eyes.
How do you cry?
Whenever I'm alone, about 20 minutes into being alone, I begin weeping.
You're often sitting quietly at work working, and when you hit the 20-minute mark, you just begin weeping?
I close my office door, yes.
Can you work through it, or do you have to have the cry, and then you can go back to whatever it is you were doing?
No. Most of the time in the mornings, I'll get all my emails done while just weeping and sobbing. It doesn't prevent me from doing my work.
I feel like it'd be very distracting, but then again, I have not cried in over a decade, so...
I'm going to get you to cry.
Please do not try to do that. We are spending some time together here soon in a social capacity, and I do not want to cry publicly or for any reason that you have incited.
Whenever you're not paying attention, I'm going to put a lot of black pepper under those upper eyelids.
Oh my God. What could I possibly be doing that you're going to have me so distracted that I'm not going to notice you jamming pepper into my eyelids?
Medically sedated.
Oh.
You're asleep. I sneak in there with a rag with some ether on it, and I hold it over your face so that you won't wake up while I jam some, just not actually a lot. They're not stuffed full of black pepper. There's just a little bit of black pepper under there. As you're blinking, you're getting pepper everywhere in your eyes, and it'll work. I guarantee you this will make you cry.
Crying from pain is not crying, Tim. It doesn't count.
You know how people say if you force yourself to smile, you'll feel better?
Yeah.
My point is, it doesn't matter why you're crying. Counts as crying.
I don't think that's true.
Track number 13, Excess by Tricky featuring Alanis Morissette. I'm worried that I might like this song.
Interesting. I don't know that I'm ready to go that far. It is my least hated song. I don't even hate it. I might. So here's the problem. This song is also on another movie soundtrack that came out in 2002. The movie is called Bad Company, It stars Chris Rock and Anthony Hopkins.
Okay, stop. No. Stop describing this movie. This is what I'm doing tonight, and I don't want you to ruin the end.
Well, okay, I'm not going to ruin the end. It revolves around people trying to attack the United States with a terrorist attack. What's interesting is that this movie is, I think, the last to ever film inside the World Trade Center, and then its release date had to be pushed way to the end of the year on account of the fact that so much of it centered around terrorist attacks. This song has the lines, "I believe in buildings tall. I believe in people bombing. I believe in people warring. I believe the disease is coming. I believe that's why I'm running." Written, performed, and released prior to the events of 9/11. Tim, I can't help but notice there are some connections here.
Yes, I agree. It's no Axl Rose, but it is a little troubling. Alanis Morissette would never, if she knew about 9/11 beforehand, she would have told people. I don't know about
Absolutely.
Tricky.
Yeah, that's the big question mark, right? We don't know what this Tricky fella, even who he is. What kind of name is that? Tricky. No, Alanis was an innocent bystander in this.
She's an angel.
Absolutely. I mean, how else do you bag Ryan Reynolds, huh?
I thought it was that other person.
Yeah, well, also Dave Coulier.
I meant Ryan Reynolds. We're focusing on Ryan Reynolds now.
He has also been with, Blake Lively and Scarlett Johansson.
Probably Blake Lively.
I'm glad we cleared that up. Track 14, Before I'm Dead, by Free Dominguez, sung by Kidney Thieves. Did you hear in this song what I heard in this song?
I assume you're talking about a drum sample?
I am, in fact, talking about a drum sample.
Yep.
I'm talking about the drum sample.
I wasn't sure. I thought it was the Winston's Amen Brother. Might have been Funky Drummer. It's kind of obscured. There's a lot of instruments on top. Were you able to ever confirm?
Nothing was confirmed.
Yeah.
We have another Winston's v. James Brown Funky Drummer situation. It's one of the two.
Yeah, I agree.
I am inclined to say it's the Winston's Amen Brother, but it could very well be Funky Drummer. I spent most of my research time trying to figure that out and not really listening to this song.
I actually don't have much to say about it otherwise.
All right, that brings us to how did this thing do, which is going to be really weird.
It peaked at number 2 on the Billboard soundtrack charts.
Yeah, I don't
Big
know
old
what that means.
Sad trombone there. It was on those charts for 25 weeks. I couldn't find any actual sales figures. Judging by the performance of the film, though, this probably lost somebody quite a bit of money. And that might explain why we don't have another J-Devil solo outing until either 2017 or 2018.
Oh, his solo album. That's right.
We'll get there. Whenever it was on the soundtrack charts, at number 2, it was beaten by Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, a genuinely good soundtrack for a genuinely good film. But also in the charts at that time, soundtracks for Shrek, Coyote Ugly, Fast and the Furious, and American Pie 2. Because 2002 is a garbage year.
That's how it did, but what did people think of it?
Critically, there was not many reviews. AllMusic was the only place I could find. It gave it 3 out of 5 stars. Amazon has 325 reviews. It has a 4.6 out of 5 star average. 78% 5-star, 3% 1-star. People fucking love this soundtrack.
That's crazy.
A lot of the reviewers also seem to believe themselves to be some sort of vampires or possibly vampires. They've given themselves vampire names. For example, The Dark Side.
Wow.
The first review is from 2013. It's called Every Song Was Chosen for the Expression It Wields by Alicia. Classics never need explanation. They express themselves like a fine wine and the unexplained vapors that draw us to remember what took place prior to this existence. Perfection is perfect. It does not require verbiage because it has no limitation. 5 out of 5 stars.
I have no idea what she just said.
I think we may have gotten a little surreptitious Robert Christgau review.
What's his alter ego's name?
Alicia.
Alicia. Interesting. Alicia Christgau. Maybe it's his niece.
Next review. This is by Angel Brown from 2002. It's entitled, Oh Yeah. This is one of the hardest soundtracks I have heard in a long time. It is really refreshing to see the vampiristic genre hit the mainstream. We are not what you'd expect or think. The movie rocked and the soundtrack is awesome. Made me rethink my Xmas list, I tell ya.
We are not what you'd expect or think.
This is a person named Angel who believes herself to be a member of some sort of vampire culture, but she also has an Xmas list, and she talks at the end there like a 1920s newsie.
Oh yeah, she does add an I tell ya.
is fascinating.
There's so much to unpack here. Vampires can be Christian. I would love to see a vampire Christmas. I assume it's a lot of blood. Or are they people in cages wrapped up in giant bows? I don't know about you, Tim. Even to this day, I'm a grown man. But when I see a really big box under the tree with my name on it, I get pretty excited.
Yeah, because you always assume there's a puppy, a brand new puppy.
Right. No, I'm talking way bigger than a puppy.
Bunch of puppies. It's just a big writhing mass of puppies.
Remember that sack I trapped you in?
Yes.
I got a present in the sack.
I think that sack is a present in and of itself.
I know you do. You've talked about the sack enough. The point is, if I am getting presents under the tree as a vampire, and it's various peasants that have been rounded up for my feeding purposes, that's pretty exciting too. Those are big boxes.
You'd think that of the available Christian holidays, vampires would be way more into, say, Easter than Christmas.
The rising and such?
Oh, I just meant it's a much more morbid holiday. Christmas is Christ's birth, and on Easter we celebrate that time he was brutally murdered.
I think they're celebrating that he got back up.
Oh.
Yeah, nobody likes Rocky because he loses at the end.
I do. If he won, it would be kind of unrealistic. Like all those other Rocky movies.
I'm saying that they like Rocky, but they don't like him because he loses. They like him because he gets back up and has pride despite losing.
Right, but if he won...
Well, yeah, it'd be a shitty movie. I understand that.
Next review?
Yeah, oh, please. God damn it. I didn't know there were more.
The next one is by T, not me. Although, if you want to call me T, I'm into that.
I'm not calling you T.
I'd be into it, though. I'm just throwing that out there. A Beautiful Marriage from 2002. Mr. Davis joins John Williams and John Barry in being able to compose a sound that so fits a movie that both have become the better for it. Lestat comments in the movie that the times possessed a sound that was different and somehow attractive to him. So attractive that he left his rest and rejoined the living world to see and listen. Does a collection like this represent more than what's apparent? Listeners will weigh in. A true delight for those of us who use our imagination to put pictures to music. 5 out of 5 stars.
You and I do nothing but use our imaginations to put pictures to lyrics. Did you enjoy this?
No.
Neither did I. Guess what, T? You're a goddamn liar. Wow.
I have one more. This is called Lestat Was Never This Bad. From 2006 by Michelle, last name I will redact. Lestat was never this bad. To be fair, some of the music is good and atmospheric, but the moment the singing starts, and I do use that word loosely, it's awful. Does everyone think vampire music has to be pissed off and mopey and screaming? It's bad enough that a hack writer like Anne Rice rips off singers like the vampire Lucan Wolf, who's been doing vampire music for years. But must we be subjected to manufactured crap like this? Only bitter, angry, self-serving listeners will really enjoy this muck. Lestat was fun and devilish, not mopey all the time. Really, enough of this angry crap already. 1 out of 5 stars. Small editor's note here. She was not the only person to unfavorably compare this to the greatness that is vampire-related music of one vampire Lucan Wolf.
Lucan Wolf.
Mm-hmm. The vampire Lucan Wolf.
Okay, he calls himself the vampire Lucan Wolf.
Yes, because he's a vampire, you see.
And he makes vampire music.
Well, yeah.
What I love about this is just before the vampire craze really kicked in.
Oh, I'm sure all these people are pissed about it because they were in on the ground floor. They were the real vampires. All these new people, they're just posers, Garrett.
Yeah. And I mean, we're not going to do it more justice than South Park did, but it is very funny to know that all of these weirdos who call themselves vampires, which again, they're not, I want to be real clear about that. That is so crazy and sad and obvious. Oh God, I'm picturing now like, hey, Sheila, do you have a minute? Yeah, what's that? We've talked about the fangs in the office, right?
Fads really should not just be stuck to teenagers. It's much funnier if you're a 45-year-old balding alcoholic, you're working in a phone bank somewhere.
And you have just a fake pair of fangs in?
Yeah, the phone bank it would be the most problematic for, I think, because that would affect the way you speak on the phone.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if you've ever toyed around with a fake pair of plastic fangs.
All right. Garrett, you're looking looking at me right now. You know I dress up for these. You know these aren't my real teeth.
I was curious if you would be able to go the entire episode without addressing it if I never brought it up.
Oh, you tricked me.
Tim is fully dressed in what I can only describe as a combination of what I assume Lestat wears in the movie and slightly more traditional vampire gear. I don't know, but let me guess. You were probably concerned after you went full Lestat that I wouldn't quite recognize you having not seen the movie.
Right, yeah, it's just leather pants and shirtless. So
yeah, you might as well just be Scott Stapp. But no, you've got the cape and the fangs, of course. The eye makeup, is that Lestat or is that vampire?
That's for me.
All right. I totally clocked vampire when you walked in. Your speaking voice is shockingly good. Now, folks, I want to paint the picture appropriately here. These are not your standard Halloween-esque fangs. I assume these are dental implants that you purchased, right?
Oh, I spent 3 months' paychecks on this outfit today.
Oh, that's so many. That's too many, Tim. Wait, hold on. 3 months?
I am in debt. 3 paychecks for this outfit.
Okay, first of all, you need to learn how to save your money better. And second of all, I hope you can get some sort of refund on at least a piece of that because you've spent thousands of dollars.
Well,
on
most of it's on the dental implants, and I don't think they're going to take these out and put them in somebody else's head. So
well, you better see about trying to do that because beyond today, when are you ever going to wear those again?
Unfortunately, again, with the dental implants, tomorrow.
Oh, right. That's your look now, huh?
For a while. I mean, I'll probably file them down to normal teeth.
I was going to say, we can file them down after the show.
We can't. You're not using a file in my mouth. Fucking
we'll
asshole.
lay down a tarp. You'll be fine.
No, that's not what I'm concerned with. I'm not
get
concerned
like a little
with the
sandwich
mess.
bag, and we'll put it inside out in your throat, so you don't get any teeth pieces.
So your plan is to smother me from the inside.
Use your nose, man. I can't think of everything. I'm looking forward to after the show today.
Who is this for?
New metal enthusiasts.
Also the undead. People that like the vampire Lucan Wolf's music should stay away.
That's true. By and large, I think the movie's probably better than the soundtrack.
It is just as bad, but in a completely different way. It's a movie that's primed for a podcast about a bad movie. It's ridiculous. It's kind of a slog to get through.
All right, Tim. Any other final thoughts you want to get out about this album?
We learned this week that J Devil is a pretty persistent guy who thinks out of the box, and we're all a little worse off for it.
I would say that he does not think outside the box. I think an executive does, and we realize that he's kind of one note. Even when completely different people do his songs, they're very recognizable as his. Time for the big question, Tim. Do you hate this album?
Oh, yeah. You did not reverse get me there. What about you? Do you hate it?
I do.
Let the record show that I was able to get you there within 5 minutes this week, and I kept you there for over an hour. That's what I do.
Of course, being hating it.
Whatever.
Right.
Little surprise, a little bonus this week. We have a musical submission, an original song from Greg Newman. Now, this is a song with words by Garrett Harvey, music by Greg Newman, and performed apparently by Cake. And good God, it's great.
It's incredible. Greg was a fan of my high school poetry and the This Would Sound Better as a Cake song game that we have not played in quite some time. This song that he has created from my words and his music and the essence of Cake is incredible. Of course, we're going to play it here. I almost started weeping when I heard it. It's so great.
We should let everyone know you're downplaying it a little. I had to do CPR on Garrett this week.
Again, I maintain it wasn't necessary.
Well, okay, I did CPR successfully on Garrett this week, necessary or not.
I don't think I ever stopped breathing, though.
The point is, I saved Garrett's life. And Greg Newman almost killed him, but I think that he would agree, had he died as a result of listening to this, totally worth it.
Check this shit out. I see her eyes meet me, but a glance is all I get. I search for things that few even look for. I see what no one sees. Every step, wave, smiling gesture, the smallest toss of her hair. The only other thing I notice is she doesn't even know I'm there.
Wow, that was amazing.
How many times have you listened to it?
No less than 25.
Yeah, I'd say I'm probably in the same neighborhood.
Greg, thank you very much. And we encourage everyone, send stuff in. This is so great. We get a lot of good memes on Facebook. Now we're getting some excellent songs. This is the stuff we're looking for. We could do a whole episode about this stuff. And as always, rate, review, subscribe, hatepod.com. You can contact us there in the upper left-hand corner, or you can email us, hatePodMail@gmail.com. Twitter, Album HatePod, Instagram, HatePod, Facebook.com/HatePod. So many ways to get in touch with us and share the things that you like, the things you're curious about, what you'd like to hear that's different on the show, the albums that you'd like to suggest. We're interested in all of it, and we respond whether you like it or not.
Again, I would just like to reiterate, this movie's amazing, and there is a podcast episode talking about the actual Queen of the Damned movie on Texas Podcast Massacre. Give it a try. Obviously, we haven't heard it yet since it isn't out when we recorded this episode, but it should be mocked. Or alternatively, if at the end of the episode the hosts of that show end up liking this movie, they are insane and should be mocked. But let's find out which way that goes.
For this podcast, this has been Why I Hate This Album. I am one of your hosts, Garrett Harvey.
I'm the other, Tim Richardson.
The riffs are too repetitive, the lyrics make no sense. All the songs are B-sides and the cover art's a mess. There's so much here to tear apart. Listen to it for a week, now that week has passed. It's Why I Hate This Album podcast with Tim and Garrett.